So picture this, out in the middle of nowhere, Montana, where the sky's bigger than your problems and the nearest Starbucks is like 3 hours away. You've got these two ranching families who straight up hate each other. We're talking Hatfields and McCoys level beef here. The Caldwells and the Monroes have been going at it for like 70+ years over the dumbest stuff, whose fence is 2 inches over the property line, who gets water rights from Silver Creek, and a bunch of other ancient drama that nobody can even remember how it started. It's basically been passed down like a really toxic family heirloom. Enter Sarah Caldwell, who just rolled back into town at 28 with her shiny new agriculture degree and a head full of ideas about sustainable ranching and modern farming techniques. She's been living her best life in Colorado, getting educated and probably drinking craft beer at breweries, but now her family's ranch is circling the drain financially. Her dad's old school, running things the way his granddaddy did, and surprise, surprise, that's not exactly working out in 2024. Sarah's basically their Hail Mary, and honestly, she's got something to prove. Growing up, her family always acted like she wasn't good enough because she wasn't a son. So yeah, she's got a chip on her shoulder the size of Texas. Meanwhile, across the valley, which might as well be 1,000,000 miles away given how these families roll, you've got Jake Monroe. This dude is 30 years old and has been busting his butt on his family's ranch since he was basically a kid. He's the real deal. Cowboy hat, worn-out boots, probably never been more than 50 miles from home his whole life. He thinks all that fancy book learning is a bunch of BS, and that the old ways are the right ways. His family's ranch is also tanking, but he's too proud and stubborn to admit they need help. Classic guy who'd rather die than ask for directions, you know? Then boom, plot twist nobody saw coming. Both the old guys, Sarah's grandpa and Jake's dad, have serious health scares in the same week. Heart attacks, strokes, the works. They're both laid up in the hospital, and suddenly their lawyers are like, "Yo, we need to talk." Turns out, way back when, the original founders of both ranches, who were apparently friends before things went sideways, created this insane legal contract. The gist of it? If both ranches ever hit rock bottom at the same time financially, their descendants have to get hitched and merge the properties to save the whole operation. It's like some old-timey arranged marriage deal that everyone forgot existed. The lawyers dropped this bomb, and everyone's losing their minds. Sarah's thinking, "Are you freaking kidding me right now? She just got back, and now she's supposed to marry some random dude from the family she's been raised to despise?" Jake's equally pissed because he doesn't want to marry some city girl know-it-all. Plus his pride is absolutely shattered at the idea of meeting the Caldwells to save his family's ranch. But here's the kicker. Both families are legitimately about to lose everything. The banks are ready to foreclose, medical bills are stacking up like crazy, and they've got maybe 60 days before it all goes belly up. The contract is ironclad, marry and merge, or both families lose their land, their legacy, their whole way of life. So Sarah and Jake are basically trapped. They've never even had a real conversation as adults. They hate each other's families with a passion, and now they're supposed to walk down the aisle together and somehow make this disaster work. It's the ultimate "you've got to be kidding me" situation, and neither of them is happy about it. But when you're staring down the barrel of losing everything your family's built for generations, well, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, even if it means marrying your worst enemy. Game on asterisk. Now these two have gotta actually meet face to face and figure this mess out, right? The lawyers set up this mandatory mediation thing at some stuffy office in town. And let me tell you, it goes about as well as a screen door on a submarine. Sarah shows up in her business casual outfit, all prepared with spreadsheets and PowerPoints about how they're going to modernize operations. Jake rolls in wearing his work jeans and boots, probably, tracked in some mud too, and he's already got his arms crossed before he even sits down. The tension in that room could be cut with a knife, dude. They can't agree on anything. Sarah's going off about implementing rotational grazing and solar panels, and Jake's like, yeah, no thanks. We've been doing just fine for 70 years without your hipster ranch nonsense. She fires back that just fine apparently means going broke, and ooh boy. You can see the vein popping in his forehead. They argue about who's going to manage what, whose methods they'll use. And get this, who gets which bedroom in the main ranch house they're supposed to share. It's like watching two toddlers fight over the same toy. Except these toddlers are grown adults who are legally obligated to get married in like 6 weeks. The wedding itself? Total nightmare. Picture the most awkward, uncomfortable ceremony you can imagine, then multiply it by 1,000. The Caldwells are sitting on one side of this little country church looking like they're at a funeral, and the Monroes are on the other side giving them death stares right back. Sarah's wearing this pretty dress but looks like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. Jake's up at the altar in a suit that he's clearly uncomfortable in, tugging at his collar like it's choking him. When the preacher gets to the speak now or forever hold your peace part, you could hear a pin drop because honestly, like half the room wanted to object. The idos are the most half-hearted things ever. Sarah says it through gritted teeth. Jake mumbles his like he's confessing to a crime. The kiss is this super awkward peck that lasts maybe half a second, and then it's over. Congrats, you're now married to someone you can't stand. The reception is just as brutal, both families on opposite sides of the room. Barely any dancing, and Sarah and Jake can't even fake being happy for the photos. Her cousin actually asks if she's okay, and she's like, "Does it look like I'm okay, Janet?" Wedding night rolls around, and forget about anything romantic, these two are all business. They sit down at the kitchen table in the ranch house and literally write out ground rules like they're roommates from hell. Rule number 1, separate bedrooms, as far apart in the house as possible. Rule number 2, keep interactions to a minimum unless it's about ranch business. Rule number 3, they're going to work their butts off to figure out how to save both ranches separately so they can get this marriage annulled ASAP and never have to see each other again. From there, it's all cold shoulders and icy glares. They start the process of merging operations, but they're communicating mainly through pissy text messages. The north pasture needs attention. Yeah, I know. Just making sure. They avoid each other like the plague, which is actually impressive considering they're living on the same property. Sarah takes her coffee at 5 a.m. specifically because she knows. Jake doesn't get up until 5:30. Jake schedules the ranch hands meetings for times he knows. Sarah's out checking equipment. It's petty. It's childish, and it's absolutely unsustainable. Both of them are miserable. Their families are still feuding. And now they're stuck together on 5,000 acres with nobody but some confused cattle and ranch hands who are trying to figure out whose orders to follow. This is definitely going to end well. Or not. Spoiler alert. Something's got to give, and soon. Okay, so here's where things start getting interesting. You can only avoid somebody for so long when you're living on the same ranch, right? Mother Nature doesn't care about your petty drama, and she's about to force these two stubborn idiots to actually work together. It's late April, and this gnarly spring storm rolls in out of nowhere. We're talking sideways rain, crazy wind, temperatures dropping like a rock. All the newborn calves are out in the pasture, and if they don't get them to shelter ASAP, they're going to lose a bunch of them. Sarah's already out there in the pouring rain at like 2 a.m., and Jake comes tearing out on his horse because of course he does. At first, they're still being all snippy with each other, but then stuff gets real. They're herding calves, mud everywhere, can barely see 2 feet in front of them, and they just start working. No time for attitude, no time for BS. Sarah's hauling calves into the barn, soaking wet, hair plastered to her face, and she's not complaining once. Then they find this one heifer whose breeching calf's coming out wrong and she's in bad shape. Jake's ready to call the vet, but Sarah just rolls up her sleeves and gets in there. This girl's got her whole arm up in there, repositioning the calf, talking calm to the mama cow, and she actually pulls it off. The calf comes out alive, and Jake's just standing there like, okay, maybe this chick actually knows what she's doing. They work through the whole night, and by dawn, they've saved like 90% of the calves. They're sitting on hay bales, exhausted, covered in mud and probably some other stuff we won't mention, and Jake passes her some coffee from his thermos. They're not exactly friends yet, but there's this moment of mutual respect. He's like, "That was some good work out there," and she just nods because she's too tired to be snarky. Fast forward a couple weeks, and they've got these big shot investors coming to tour the property. The banks basically force this meeting. They want to see if this merged ranch thing is actually gonna work, or if they should just pull the plug now. Sarah's got her presentation all ready, super professional, showing all her innovative plans. The investors are nodding along, looking semi-interested, but they're not blown away. Then Jake starts talking, and dude comes alive. He's walking them around the property, telling stories about the land that go back generations, explaining how the ecosystem works, pointing out how they're already implementing sustainable grazing patterns. He talks about the health of the soil, the watershed, the wildlife corridor stuff Sarah didn't even know he cared about. He's passionate and knowledgeable, and the investors are eating it up. Sarah's watching him like, who is this guy? Because this is not the stubborn cowboy who argued with her about everything. The investors end up being way more optimistic after Jake's tour, and Sarah actually tells him, "Hey, that was really impressive back there." He kind of shrugs it off, but you can tell he's pleased. After that, things start shifting for real. They begin having coffee together in the mornings. Not on purpose at first, they just keep running into each other. Jake shows Sarah how to rope properly because she's been doing it wrong, and it's been driving him crazy watching her. She's actually a good student when she's not being defensive, and he's a pretty decent teacher when he's not being a jerk about it. Then Sarah shows Jake her irrigation plans, like really shows him. Explains the whole system, how it'll save thousands of gallons of water and cut costs by like 30%. He's looking at her blueprints, asking smart questions, and he's actually considering it instead of just shooting it down. Before they know it, they're eating dinner together most nights. At first, it's just ranch talk, cattle prices, feed costs, which pastures to rotate. But then Jake mentions he likes reading, and Sarah's shocked because she figured he was all action and no books. Turns out dude reads poetry. And she tells him about the pressure she felt growing up, always trying to prove herself. They're not admitting it yet, but something's definitely changing. These dinners are becoming the best part of their day. And that's low-key terrifying for both of them. So summer hits Montana. And if you've never experienced ranch life in summer, it's basically nonstop work from sunup to sundown. Sarah and Jake are together constantly now, fixing fences, moving cattle, dealing with a million things that break on a ranch, because of course they do. And somewhere along the way, all that hostility just melts away. They've got this rhythm going, this partnership where they don't even need to talk half the time. He knows what she's thinking. She knows what he needs. And it's honestly kind of scary how well they work together. One day Sarah's up on a ladder in the barn fixing some sketchy boards, and the whole thing starts to wobble. She's about to eat it hard, like we're talking broken bones territory, and Jake literally comes out of nowhere and catches her. They're frozen there for a second, his arms around her waist, her hands on his shoulders, faces like inches apart. The chemistry is insane. Both of them are breathing hard, and it's got nothing to do with the physical exertion, you know? They kind of awkwardly separate and go back to work, but that moment? Yeah, That changed everything. Sarah starts noticing all these little things about Jake that she somehow missed before. Like how gentle he is with the animals, this big tough cowboy, who talks to the horses in this soft voice and hand feeds the barn cats. Or how he keeps a worn book of Robert Frost poems in his truck and reads during lunch breaks. One time she catches him actually crying over a poem, and instead of making fun of him, she's like, "Oh wow, he's actually got serious depth." Jake's having his own revelations too. He learns that Sarah grew up with 3 older brothers who her dad clearly favored, and she spent her whole childhood trying to prove she was just as tough, just as capable. Her dad literally told her once that ranching wasn't for girls, and she got her whole agriculture degree basically to flip him off. Jake starts understanding why she comes in so hot. Sometimes girls been fighting for respect her whole life. The really big shift happens when their families start getting in their business again. Both sides are still being super extra about the whole merger, making snarky comments, undermining decisions. And one day at a family dinner, Jake's dad makes some dismissive comment about Sarah's ideas, and Jake just goes off. He's like, "Actually, Dad, Sarah's irrigation system is going to save us $30,000 a year. So maybe show some respect." Sarah's jaw literally drops because nobody's ever defended her like that, especially not to their own family. She returns the favor when her mom makes some crack about Jake being just a cowboy with no education. Sarah shuts that down hard. "He knows more about sustainable land management than half the people with degrees I went to school with. So back off, Mom." They're presenting this united front now, and both families are shook because they did not see this coming. Then comes the county fair, which is like the Super Bowl of ranching around there. Their merged herd wins Reserve Grand Champion, plus ribbons in like 4 other categories. It's a huge deal. That night they're celebrating with all the ranch hands. There's a bonfire going. Someone's playing guitar and everybody's having a great time. Sarah and Jake end up walking away from the party, just the 2 of them under these insane Montana stars. They're talking and laughing, and then suddenly they're not talking anymore. Jake's looking at her like she's the only person in the world, and Sarah just goes for it. She kisses him, and holy crap, it's not one of those awkward pecks like at their wedding. This is a real kiss, the kind that makes your toes curl and your brain short-circuit. That night, their marriage becomes real in every way. If you catch my drift, the next morning they're lying there in his bed. Not separate rooms anymore, and it's terrifying for both of them. Sarah's freaking out internally like, "Oh my God, I have actual feelings for this man." Jake's panicking like, "Dude, you're falling in love with your wife. What are you gonna do when she realizes she can do way better?" They don't say, "I love you" yet because they're both chicken, but it's written all over their faces. This fake marriage just became very, very real, and neither of them knows what to do about it. Just when things are going amazing and Sarah and Jake are actually happy, like genuinely, stupidly happy, the universe decides to throw a massive wrench in their plans. Because of course it does. This huge development corporation called Summit Ridge Properties rolls into town in their fancy SUVs and designer suits, looking totally out of place. They make an absolutely insane offer to buy the merged ranch. We're talking enough money to pay off every single debt both families have, cover all the medical bills, and leave everyone set for life. They want to turn the whole property into some luxury housing development with million-dollar homes for rich people who want to experience Montana without actually, experiencing Montana. It's basically their worst nightmare, but the money is serious, and here's where things get messy. Sarah's mom and Jake's dad, who are both still recovering and apparently still holding grudges, start pushing hard for them to take the deal. They're like, "This is your out. You kids can finally be free of each other and this whole forced marriage disaster. Take the money and run." They're working their own kids, getting in their heads, playing on every insecurity. Jake starts spiraling hard. He's lying awake at night thinking, Sarah only married me because she had to. The second she's got a way out, she's gonna bounce. He starts pulling away, getting quiet, throwing himself into work so he doesn't have to deal with his feelings. He's convinced that someone as educated and accomplished as Sarah was just making the best of a bad situation. And now that there's an exit strategy, she's gonna realize she can do way better than some small-town cowboy. Sarah's got her own freak out happening. She starts wondering if she really belongs on the ranch or if she's just playing dress-up. Like, does Jake actually love her, or is he just loyal to the land and would stick with anyone who came with it? Plus, her family's in her ear about how she's wasting her potential out here when she could take the money, move to a city, and do something more important with her degree. She's doubting everything. The tension between them gets thick, like you could cut it with a chainsaw. They're barely talking, both of them waiting for the other one to say they want to sell. Then one night, it all explodes. They have this massive fight in the kitchen where all the ugly stuff comes out. Jake's like, just admit you want out. You never wanted this life. You never wanted me. And Sarah fires back, oh, so now you're a mind reader? Maybe you're the one who wants out because you can't handle that I'm not some submissive little ranch wife. It gets brutal. Jake says something about how she's always trying to change everything because she thinks she's better than him. Sarah says something about how he's so stuck in his ways that he'd rather stay miserable than admit he needs help. They're both saying things they don't mean, but the damage is done. Sarah grabs her keys and peels out, headed to town. She gets a hotel room and just sits there crying because she's pretty sure she just blew up. The best thing that ever happened to her. She keeps looking at her phone, hoping Jake will call or text, but he doesn't. Jake's back at the ranch punching walls, not literally, but almost, and feeling like the biggest idiot alive. He wants to call her so bad, but his pride won't let him. Plus, he's convinced. She's probably relieved to be away from him. Both families are watching this train wreck and getting ready to sign the development deal, because clearly these two can't make it work. The lawyers are drawing up papers. Summit Ridge is planning their press release. Everything Sarah and Jake built together over the summer is about to disappear. The partnership. The progress, the love they were too scared to name. That night. Separated for the first time since they actually became a real couple, both of them are absolutely miserable. Jake's sitting on the porch staring at the land. Sarah's in that generic hotel room staring at the ceiling. And they're both realizing the same thing. Losing the ranch would suck, but losing each other? That's the real tragedy here. Something's gotta give. And it better happen fast before they lose everything that actually matters. Asterisk Sarah's been gone for like 14 hours, which honestly feels like 14 years to both of them. Jake barely slept, just tossing and turning, replaying that fight over and over in his head. Around 4 a.m., he gives up, throws on his boots, and rides out to this ridge where the two original properties meet. It's this spot with the most insane view. You can see both ranches spread out below. The mountains in the distance, the whole 9 yards. He's sitting there on his horse watching the sunrise, and it hits him like a ton of bricks. This land isn't just his anymore. It's theirs. Every fence they fixed together, every innovation Sarah implemented, every tradition he taught her, they built something real here. Something that matters way more than some 70-year-old family beef. And suddenly he doesn't care about the ranch or the money or any of it. He cares about Sarah. He's completely, terrifyingly in love with his wife. And he's been a total idiot. Meanwhile, Sarah's in that sad hotel room, couldn't sleep either. Surrounded by all her business plans and spreadsheets. She's going through the irrigation designs, the rotational grazing schedules, the financial projections. And she realizes something crucial. Every single plan she made has Jake's fingerprints all over it. She designed everything with him in mind, using what he taught her about reading the weather patterns, understanding the land, respecting the natural rhythms of the ranch. Without Jake, these plans are just paper. With him, they're a life. She looks at her phone and sees it's almost 5 a.m., and she just knows exactly where he is. Sarah drives back to the ranch like a maniac, parks the truck, and hikes up to the ridge. Sure enough, there's Jake on his horse, and when he sees her climbing up, he practically jumps off to meet her. They both start talking at the same time, words tumbling over each other. "I'm so sorry. No, I'm sorry. I was an idiot. I love you. Wait, what?" They both freeze. Jake's standing there looking absolutely terrified and says it again. "I love you, Sarah. Like, really love you. This stopped being about obligation like months ago, and I've been too chicken to say it." Sarah's crying now. The good kind of crying, and she's like, "Oh, thank God. Because I'm crazy in love with you too, you stubborn cowboy. And I thought I'd completely screwed everything up." They're kissing and laughing and crying all at once. And it's the most rom-com moment ever, but whatever. They've earned it. They head back to the ranch house holding hands. And both families are already there waiting with the lawyers and the Summit Ridge people ready to sign the deal. Everyone looks shocked to see them together and clearly not broken up. Jake and Sarah walk in presenting a united front, and they drop their own ultimatum. Sarah's like, "Here's what's going to happen. We're rejecting the development offer. This ranch is ours, and we're keeping it." Jake jumps in, and the feud? It's done, over, dead and buried. You all can either accept our marriage and this merged ranch and be part of what we're building, or you can walk away right now. The room goes dead silent. Sarah's mom looks like she's gonna argue, but then she sees how her daughter is looking at Jake like he hung the moon, and something shifts. Jake's dad is all red-faced, but then Jake says, "Dad, I love her. And more than that, I respect her. If you can't get on board with that, then I guess we're done here." It takes a minute, some uncomfortable silence, but eventually both families grudgingly agree. The Summit Ridge people leave all huffy, and slowly, the Caldwells and Monroes start actually talking to each other like human beings for the first time in decades. Flash forward a year. Sarah's pregnant like 7 months along, glowing, still insisting on doing ranch work until Jake physically stops her. The ranch is absolutely thriving. They've implemented all of Sarah's innovations combined with Jake's traditional knowledge, and they're actually profitable for the first time in years. Both families are at the ranch for this huge barbecue. And get this, the two grumpy old grandfathers who started this whole mess are sitting on the porch together, arguing about whose turn it is to refill the sweet tea, but in like a friendly way. Jake's dad actually compliments one of Sarah's ideas, and her mom asks Jake for his brisket recipe. As the sun sets, Sarah and Jake are standing together watching everyone. They're weird. Blended, formerly feuding family, and Jake puts his hand on her belly. She leans into him and whispers, "Think our kid's gonna believe we started out hating each other?" Jake laughs. "Not a chance." But man, best-worst beginning ever. They kiss while the Montana sky does its thing, all oranges and pinks and purples. And yeah, sometimes the most epic love stories start with two people who absolutely couldn't stand each other. Sometimes you gotta get forced into something to realize it's exactly what you needed all along. The end. And they all lived happily ever after, no cap.